Going to be making the up and over rig. I'm using the Trident tackle components to make this, the hangover and stuff like that. I'm using, for the main rig body, Berkeley Trilene. This is £80 and 0.89mm in diameter. I did a rig body length, 44 inches. The only reason why, that's the length of my freezer. So I'll snip that off. When you snip this off, snip it at an angle, quite a steep angle, like that. To start off the rig, I tie on a power swivel. I think these are size 8 and they're rated to £195 and they're absolutely tiny. I've used these on the top of my rigs casting. I've never had one give in. I'm not a big power caster, but I can put a bait around 80 yards maybe. The knot is a blood knot. You go around 6 times. I bet you was counting that, wasn't you? Back through the loop, and it curls up like this. Give it a gentle pull and it straightens it out. Give it a good wet with your mouth. I use a punch tool for this. It's a little tool just to hold the swivel. When you pull these knots down, don't just whack it down, pull it gently. Sometimes it'll get stuck like it is here now. Just give it a slide with your fingers. It's because it's £80 mono. If you keep pulling, it does damage the line a little. But as you can see, that knot is pulled down tidy. Snip the tag end off. You can go as close as you like. I'll go really close, to be fair. I'll probably leave, well, hardly anything. There's probably a millimetre there. But these knots have never failed on me, so I've got confidence in them. Now the swivel's on, we need to get the hangover up to the top of the rig. I've cut that line at an angle. It just makes it easier to feed it through these, being £80, because it is quite tight, if you look. But there's one crimp on, slide that down. Then you get your hangover. It has to go on this way. That's upwards. When you put it on, slide it on that way, because it's going to the top of the rig, just like that. Then you want the spring. There's a spring there. These hangovers, the cost £2.50. These hangovers do. And you get a pack of 12. And then another crimp. It also comes with the crimps. And what you have is that you got a crimp at the bottom, the spring, the hangover, and another crimp right there. I'll just slide these to the top of the rig. Don't crimp this into position yet. Leave it loose and you'll see why in a minute. But I'll come down to the bottom of the rig, put a crimp on. Now put a bead on. I like to use the smaller beads for this. These beads, they're quite tight to get on. And 4mm. It just makes the rig a lot neater. There's a 4mm bead right there, look. Then put on a power swivel, the size 8. Then another bead. And then another crimp. You'll have something like that. You got a crimp, a bead, a swivel, a bead and a crimp. That goes to the bottom of the rig once you tie on your thermalink. So next, move that out of the way. Get your thermalink, which is one of these from Trident Tackle. These are £2 and they come in packs of 24. Tie your thermalink on the bottom. And this is why that's cut at an angle. Makes it a lot easier to get through everything. These are very snug with the £80 line. I don't think you get anything any thicker in a diameter. Like I said, this is 0.89mm thick. I think if you went to 90, I think you'd struggle. Not that I've tried it, but the same knot, go around 6 times and then pull it down. But just don't pull it down fast. Let it go down like that, nice and steady, like that. As you get to the end there, give it a really good pull. As you can see, that's a good knot. There's no need for you to whack it down really fast. The nylon heats up when you pull it down and it can weaken the line. But as you can see there, that's a neat knot, and I cut my tag end off nice and close. Now I'm at this stage. Slide the swivel and the beads back to the bottom. So you got it there like that. And we're going to crimp this into position now. This is the crimping tool I use. I don't know if you've seen Sandman's Tackle Time on YouTube. Recently he's stopped uploading, he don't upload very often. But I've seen these on his channel and they are actually very good. They're good for small components like these, but they do not work with shark fishing crimps. I've tried it. Why they don't work, I do not know. What I do now is get it onto the crimp and I go down to there and just hold it there so you can still move it where you want to move it to, look. But the crimp is stuck in the crimp tool. I keep it about 1mm from the knot. Hopefully you can see that there. And I crimp it just like that and release. As you can see, it does a very tidy crimp. It does a good crimping job and it don't damage the line. Now pull. Now what you do is pull the bead through and the swivel. It's a bit fiddly, but it does go through. Pull the crimp in to the tool. Go down so it just catches it like that. Now I set this, I don't pull it really tight, but I don't want any looseness in it like this. Hang on. You don't want it loose like that. I'll explain why in a minute. So pull it in so it's like this, but don't pull it tight. You still want movement in the swivel like that, look. If I pull it really tight, that swivel struggles to move. So give it a tiny bit of slack, about there you want it, and crimp that down. And what you have now, you hold it that way because it's pinched in between the beads. It still turns, look, the swivel does, but it don't drop straight down. It sort of kicks it off a little bit, so your hook length won't get wrapped in your lead. This way I don't get tangles. You can add a little bit of shrink tubing, which I've tried, and that does work, but this way is just more simple and there's less components to the rig. What you need to do now is tie the snood on. I use Ultima Sea Strike. This is £50 line and it's 0.70mm in diameter. I've only been using this recently, probably for the last year. It's cheap and it seems like a pretty good line, and I use it for all my snoods. I don't generally go any lighter than 50. I fish a lot of rough ground and I never had this fail on me. Same knot again now. What you do, bottom swivel, this is for your snood, tie it onto there. So go around 6 times and come back through its own little loop there and pull it down. Snip your tag end off. And what I've done, I've left the line attached to the spool. This is the fiddly bit now, getting the length of the snood for the hook link. What I'll do is, this is the bottom of the rig. So, hold the snood and the main line together and pull it down like this, keeping it together all the way. Keep going to the very top of the rig, roughly to that position there by the hangover. Hold the line there on the hangover and then come back down with the line. This is just to give you a rough gauge of the length you're going to need. And what I do, I come back down to the bottom of the thermal link like that with the snood, and now I'm going to snip this off. I'll panel this rig and I'm going to be putting on a Coxswain Roll Chinook 2.0 for my panel hook. There's the hook right there. As you can see, the eye kicks off slightly, which makes it a good panel hook, and it's a seriously strong hook and it's very sharp. So I'll put that on now onto the snood, slide it up out the way and just wrap around it 2 or 3 times. Then I have Kaiki wide mouth specimen hooks. These are 4.0. I do also use 2.0. Tie this hook onto the snood, the same knot again, go through and go around 6 times. You can use whatever knot you know or whatever knot you prefer. This is just my personal preference. It's what I've always used since I started fishing and it's never let me down. And it's easy to tie. And for a beginner, it's easy to remember. It's just round 6 times, back through and pull. and it is a very good knot, look. Tag end. I'll show you with the tag end now. I'll snip it pretty close, but on the hook, leave a tag like that. This helps with your bait. It's a bit like an anchor, and it helps with the elastic as well. When you're wrapping around all of this, this just gives it a bit more to grip onto, that's all. Now the fiddly bit. You've got to get this set up and crimp the hangover into place. What I normally do, I don't know if you can see, I've got a little clip up here. I normally hang the rig off there, but I know a lot of you at home won't have that luxury. You'll probably be doing it in your living room. I did used to, but the wife kicked me out the house from doing it. So now, the fiddly bit. What you need to do is get a lead and put your whatever clip you use, but I use the Roto bait clip, as you can see there. You need to clip onto your lead, and this is the good thing with these Roto bait clips now, you'll see. Get your hooks, move that panel hook out of the way. Put your hook into the bait clip, just like this. And because these are so good, it don't come out very easy. As you can see, it stays in there, which this makes this rig a lot easier to do without hanging it up. So what you do now, you've got all the line in your fingers. You've got 3 lines now, because obviously the snood is doubled back on itself. So from the bottom there, pull like this, watching the panel hook on your fingers. But you want to keep them together like that. Keep them nice and straight. Keep coming to the top of the rig. Try not to leave any slack. And you've got your loop here now, which this is going to go over the hangover. So you bring this up to here and hold it like this and slide the hangover down into position where it's going to need to be. And get that loop of line onto the hangover. Just like that. Now let the rig hang. So you have to stand up to do this part. You let the rig hang to get the height of it. And this is where it's going to be. If you look, if I hold that like that, that'll have. What you want is a bit of tension on it, on the spring. As you can see here, look. I can't get too close because of the freezer. There's slack there, just under the hangover. You want to push the spring up and tension it a little, right there. Now you can let all this relax. Keep holding that crimp so you know where you need it to be. Hold the crimp there, like that. And now, crimping tool. Feed everything through the crimping tool from the top onto that crimp. Watch the spring that you don't damage it. Make sure it's not stuck in the crimping tool, move it out of the way. That crimps in and it's crimped. So now there will slide down to there and it's locked in place, look, as you can see. Now bring the loop of snood line back in. It is a fiddly rig, but it is a good rig. You got your loop of snood line there on the rig. Hook it over your hangover, just like that. As you can see, that's set now, look. Hopefully you can see that. That's set up, ready. So you bring the top crimp down. And you need to have a bit of tension on this now. Not much, just a bit. And we're going to crimp it into place. Get the crimp on it and go down so it's like one clip. So you're just gripping the crimp. You want to slide down and put a bit of tension on that spring. Not too much, look. A bit like that. And crimp. Then, once it's all crimped into position, you put it back into the hangover. And as you can see there, look, it's under tension. I will try now and show you how it works. but it's going to be a bit difficult. You can see there the rig is hanging like that. You'll cast this out now into the sea, and as the roto clip there, as this hits the water, it'll release the rig. Hopefully you've got to see this, just like that. So you've got a long flowing trace. So that's the way the rig works. It comes off there like that. If I let this go, you'll see what I mean. The swivel kicks it off, look. If you wanted to, you could add a bit of rig tubing on there just to bring it out a bit to there. But this, I don't get tangles, because that swivel is not sitting straight down, because these beads are holding it out. I find this stops my tangles. And the snood is a nice long flowing trace, if you see. This rig is amazing for ray fishing, and it's also good for the cod. I had a few cod on it last year, so I'll be giving it a good go this year. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.